And just push. Sure your mic.
Good morning, everybody. Or good afternoon, everybody. It's 1:30. I'd like to call the meeting of the Traffic and Transportation Commission for March 17, 2025 to order. We'll do roll call. Commissioner Varnell.
Here.
Commissioner Littlefield.
Here.
Commissioner Carnes.
Here.
Commissioner Hale.
Here, sir.
Commissioner Martinez is not available. Commissioner Wynn is not available. Commissioner George and Commissioner Cornett.
Here.
Yep. All right. We go to item 2, approval of the Traffic and Transportation Commission meeting minutes for February 17th, 2025. Can I have a motion
Motion for approval?
from Commissioner Varnell? And do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Littlefield.
Carnes.
Who?
Carnes.
You guys. Okay, do we have any talk on item 2, the meeting minutes? Okay, motion to approve by Commissioner Varnell, seconded by Commissioner Carnes. Or we're standing by. We're waiting for a second. Well, I show it as waiting for a second. You voted? Well. Okay, well, okay, I put it in there. Yeah, I'm on the computer. It's not updated. Well, you can put me as a yes.
It's showing the minutes have
And
passed.
Mr. George, have you already had yours voted? Okay. All right, so. Okay, all in favor, 6 approved. Commissioner George, what did you do? Abstained. He abstained, okay. So 6 approved. Item has passed. Okay, reports from Traffic Services Division and Municipal Counselor's Office.
All right, you've got our standing monthly reports before you on commission-approved signals, our alternative speed abatement program, and the administratively installed yield, parking, and turn restrictions. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have on those reports.
Anybody have anything for staff? All right. Counselor's Office.
Was just going to
Oh.
mention that I spoke with the Neighborhood Alliance, with several neighborhood participants last week, and I had a lot of interest with ASAP, so you're probably going to see some requests rolling in.
Okay, all right, we'll be watching.
Okay, Counselor?
Nothing from the municipal counselor's office, except glad to be back.
That's right, you're back.
I'm back.
Like I told him, we had a big party the day after he left, and now it all went to naught. He's
Yes.
back. Yeah.
It's good to be back.
All right, there are no items on the consent docket, so we go to item 5A, Terrence Hines, PE President, SMC Consultant. It's up there on the screen. And do we have anybody to speak on this? Yes, sir. Name, address, and you have up to 5 minutes.
Mohammed Khan with SMC Consulting, 815 West Main. I'm filling in for Terry Haynes. He's on PTO with grandkids. So thank you, Mr. Chairman and the commissioners. We appreciate you allowing us to present this item to you. What we have is Oak Development is keep growing, and there is a need for some additional parking, valet services, pedestrian access to improve the circulation there. So you have 3 items in front of you. I'll be happy to answer any questions, or you can put these together however you wish.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anybody else want to, anybody else want to speak on item 5A? Okay, staff, 5A.
All right, you got our comments before you. The first application that's being considered today is for a mid-block pedestrian crossing, which is kind of at a diagonal at the location, at the junction of Oak Street and Northwest 50th Street. And then just to the north and to the west side of that, on the west side of Oak Street, they are making a request to construct a lay-by, which is to be used for a full-time passenger loading zone. Both these particular items would be in conformance with past actions by the commission. The diagonal crossing at the junction of Oak Street and Northwest 50th is a little bit unusual in as much as it's in the curvature of a roadway. However, there is no on-street parking that's immediately in the vicinity of the crossing, and the parking that is there is set back in a lay-by. So as far as the visibility of pedestrians should go to approaching vehicles, we don't anticipate there will be any issues. The speed limit on these streets is also just 20 miles an hour. And so action on these 2 items, which will be the first in a series of 3 actions, will be at the discretion of the commission. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have on this particular application.
Okay, do we have a motion concerning 5A?
Move for approval?
Motion to approve by Commissioner Littlefield. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Cornett. Any discussions? Okay, motion to approve 5A from Commissioner Littlefield, seconded by Commissioner Cornett. Votes, please. All right, item has passed with all 7 in favor. We go on now to item 5B, and that is up on the screen there. Sir, do you have anything on this one?
Again, it's staying on the record, Mohammed Khan, and request for your approval of this item. As this development is expanding, there is a need for additional parking, and this presents an opportunity to add some additional parking. It still is staying within the city allowable design guidelines for the 60-degree parking, and with a 30-minute maximum limit to increase the uses of that parking in that area.
So the only question I have is 30-minute parking, that seems different than the normal 2 hours. Why do you want the turnover so quick?
Now, the details of this, I wasn't purview to it between the city staff and our engineer of record, Terry Haynes. But it seems like the staff report says, the application also says 30-minute parking. I figured it could be to increase the higher turnover and allow maximum use of that parking space.
Okay. All right, anybody else want to speak on item 5B? All right, thank you, staff.
All right,
Thank you.
got comments before you. Then there was a question relative to the 30-minute parking duration. That is a common on-street parking limit throughout the Oak development. So that particular limit is just being expanded from Oak Street and from Northwest 50th Street inside the development to this particular block. So that's just a continuation of that particular parking control.
Okay.
This will be the city's first application for 60-degree angle parking since the ordinance was last passed, which created the standards for it. This particular parking lay-by is designed in accordance with those requirements. They are providing 1 accessible parking space for the physically disabled, and based on current standards for handicap accessibility, which is known as PROAG, the single space in this block combined with an existing space on the remaining portions of this block will keep the block in conformance with the required ratio based on the number of parking spaces to the number of ADA spaces required. And aside from that, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have on the application.
All right, do we have a motion concerning item 5B?
I move for approval, but I'd like to have some discussion, please.
Okay, as soon as we get a motion down, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Cornett. All right, talk on the item, sir?
You could come back up, please. It seems to me a while back, I heard or we were told that there are R1 properties across the street from this had been acquired.
I wish I have the answer for it. We can follow up with you in those.
I'm sometimes, I like to scrutinize these kinds of parking spaces across from R1 zoning if that hasn't changed. But you all may have acquired them and they haven't been rezoned yet. That would satisfy my curiosity too. I don't know the answer to that. And the other question that I have is why that location for the parking space for the physically disabled? It would,
Yeah, good question. So there are more than few factors when you consider the accessible parking spaces. The best thing to locate is nearest to the ramp, so they don't have to navigate the traffic barriers, get to the ramp there. And then next to the sidewalk, plus the side grading also plays a role in it, that the maximum grade in any direction cannot exceed more than 2%. So these factors play a role on setting the location up. Plus, if you would notice that the landing zone for accessible space is protected by a curb, so that helps to keep the landing zone free and clear and not an adjacent vehicle encroach into the landing zone.
So what I seem to recall is some of the development that's going to be going to the south of these parking spaces are typically like fast entities. Like you would run in and spend 10 minutes there and run back out. So what I'm not understanding from the development is what's on the east side of, that would be Young's. If a physically disabled person were to park there, does it put them equal distance, it seems, to the east and to the south to be able to participate in those facilities, or would it be a better location to put that space all the way to the eastern point of this parking zone where it would also be protected, but more in a mid-range where they could participate in these businesses and with the major part of the Oak development? I'm just curious why that spot.
Yeah, so besides what I just previously mentioned, the other thing is the approach to the parking space.
Okay.
It's much easier to have the blind side more clear by the grass area and everything, instead of if you have a car parked there, not only you navigating your other car, but also you're dealing with the cars on the both sides.
I get it. Thank you for explaining that.
You're welcome.
I appreciate it.
Right. Commissioner Littlefield, I might add one other thing. You see that they've got a draft development plan, and that plan will also have will have accessible spaces inside the private parking area, and those spaces will be located close to doors and other facilities. So they will also be closer in.
Thank you.
Okay, any other talk on 5B? Okay, we have a motion to approve 5B from Commissioner Littlefield, second by Commissioner Cornett. Votes, please. Okay, item has passed with all 7 in favor. We go on now to 5C, Terrence Hayes again. This is for valet loading, and item is up on the screen. Sir?
Mohammed Khan, staying on the record. So my understanding is that this item is related to 5A. The purpose of making this as a landing zone, so it would not be used for any public parking spaces at any other time. A request for your approval.
All right, thank you very much. Anybody else on 5C? Okay, staff?
Okay, this is a typical ancillary use for a passenger loading zone that's been approved, subject to being available on a full-time basis. All the applicant is seeking is to have a valet zone designated to be used within the same limits of the passenger loading zone that was approved in item 5A on today's agenda.
Okay, can I have a motion on 5C?
Move for approval?
Okay, we have a motion to approve by Commissioner Littlefield, seconded by Commissioner Cornett.
Carnes.
Barnes. Okay.
Carnes.
Carnes. Okay, any talk on 5C? Okay, motion to approve 5C from Commissioner Littlefield, seconded by Commissioner Carnes. Votes. Item has passed with all 7 in favor. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
We go on now to 5D, Caleb Morgan. And the item is up on the board about reserve parking. Hi, sir. Name, address, 5 minutes.
Good afternoon, Caleb Morgan, Johnson Associates, 1 East Sheridan Avenue. I'm here for a apartment project on the southwest corner of 67th and Ollie, which is just east of Western Avenue. There's apartments with a coffee shop on the ground floor, and we're proposing adding parallel parking on 67th Street. As part of that, we're wanting to get approval for an ADA space. We work with staff and met all their requirements, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you very much. Anybody else want to speak on 5D? Okay, staff?
All right. The applicant's proposing construction of a lay-by for parallel parking on the south side of Northwest 67th Street. On this particular block, the single reserve parking space for the physically disabled will meet PROAG ratio requirements for the number of spaces around the block to the number of accessible spaces provided. So since it meets that requirement, the design is in conformance with the current PROAG standards for ADA spaces. So action on the item will be at the discretion of the commission.
All right, do we have a motion for 5D?
I move for approval with a couple questions.
We have a motion to approve 5D from Commissioner Littlefield. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second from Commissioner Hale. And yes, sir.
There's a really steep grade that goes to the east on Northwest 67th Street. Is that the purpose for the spot being chosen there?
Right, to try to avoid some of that. And we're going to have to regrade the grass behind the curb to make it work anyways, and put in the access aisle for the ADA spot. But yeah, that is one of the reasons it's where it's shown.
Because I've been by there and I'm seeing the progress. It's really cool.
Yep.
But when a disabled person gets out of their vehicle at that point, what's there?
What's there now, or what will be?
What's planned to be there?
I think the coffee shop is actually going to be on the corner, so that'll be most likely, there'll be no access through the building there. But it is chosen for the reason you mentioned, that location for it.
And then the parking area to the south of that shows a couple of spaces that I'm sure are required. That's private?
Right, that's a private lot.
Okay, thanks.
So they'll have a sidewalk next to the access aisle that'll go along 67th Street, so they'll be able to get to the east.
So this spot is more for patrons of the mixed use?
That's right, although it won't be reserved for that since it's public.
Right, got it. Thanks.
All right, any other comments on 5D? Okay, we have a motion to approve 5D for Commissioner Littlefield, seconded by Commissioner Hale. Votes, please. Item has passed with all 7 in favor. Thank you, sir. We go on now to 5E, James Ray, change in the speed limit, and the item is up on the screen there. They have 3 sub-items. Sir, if I can have your name, address, and you have up to 5 minutes.
Yes, I'm James Ray, 10900 Southeast 68th Street, a resident of the Forestry subdivision. We're proposing to have a reduction of the speed limit in our neighborhood due to the majority of the speeders are the delivery trucks. We do have a couple of residents that do need to slow down as well, but you know, we're just hoping to get somebody to get the neighborhood in general to slow down. So we've had a couple incidents where my wife and another neighbor was almost run over by a vehicle speeding through the neighborhood, making a pizza delivery. We've had numerous stuff like that over the years. And now we have more children coming back into the neighborhood. and we feel that it'd be safer for the kids to have a slower speed limit. And that's it. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Anybody else wanting to speak on 5E? Yes, sir. If I could have your name and address, you have 5 minutes, and when you're done, fill out one of the green forms, please.
Okay. My name's Ed Bryant. I live at 6944 Tree Lane neighborhood. I'm in that neighborhood. And as president of the HOA there's probably 32 houses, and I think they polled everybody in the neighborhood, and I believe like 2/3 of the residents supported it, about 1/3 didn't. So you had about 8 households that didn't. I think we had 2 houses that are empty at the time. But anyway, I'm not here to speak for it or against it. I understand that they looked at the traffic, and about 98% of the traffic adhere to the speed limit or thereabouts. And so to me, is it money well spent changing the speed limit? Will it change anybody's habits? And again, as a representative for all of my homeowners, I have to represent all of them. And since I have 8 of them that do not wish to change the speed limit, and it is the speed limit for all housing areas, then I would, as the position of the president, I don't support it due to that. Now, personally, it doesn't make me, as a resident, I could go either way. I did say that I was against it because I didn't see a real need for it, but we do have a lot of people that walk the neighborhood. I walk the neighborhood every day with, and my wife does too, and I have a dog, and so would it help? Possibly it could, but again, it's just like any other neighborhood in Oklahoma City. You're going to get those that obey the speed limit and those that don't. So I'll leave it to y'all to make a decision. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Anybody else wanted to speak on item 5E? All right, staff?
All right, you got our comments before you. One thing we did do is we've started using a radar speed detector and a vehicle counter. And in the past, when we'd conducted neighborhood traffic studies to get volumes and speed, volumes were collected using road tube counters, and speeds were conducted using personnel that would go out and they would conduct a spot speed study. Well, using the radar devices, we're able to set these counters out, and we can get several days of observation. So rather than potentially miss higher speeds, which might occur after in the evening hours when people are getting home from work or something along that line, we now have the ability to get a more comprehensive picture of speed in the neighborhood. So in that regard, when we did conduct our study, we observed from February 27th to March 3rd, we collected speed data from 786 vehicles, and this would be on the section of Southeast 86th Street between Forestry Lane and Westminster Drive, or Westminster Road, which would be the section of roadway most likely to have probably the highest speeds. It's also got somewhat of a grade to it, and it's also at the location where it ties into Westminster, which has got a 40-mile-an-hour limit. In this particular case, our study of the 786 vehicles found that the 50th percentile speed observed on 68th Street was 19 miles per hour, and the 85th was 22. In that study area, the highest recorded speed that we captured during those days of observation was 32 miles an hour. So action on this particular item will be at the discretion of the commission. Although not required, the applicant did do a petition and circulated it throughout the entire neighborhood, and they did come up with more than 2/3 of the residents within the neighborhood that signed the petition in favor of this particular request.
All right, thank you. Do we have a motion concerning 5E?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Hale. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second by Commissioner Littlefield. Do we have any talk on this item? As it's my ward, went out there, and in my opinion, if it's such a small neighborhood and the curves are in there and the roads seem very narrow to me, that slowing it down to 15 would be okay. So that's my talk on it. Anybody else wanted to talk on item?
I'd just say that 15 seems awfully slow for a neighborhood in the city, but,
You had something.
I don't live there.
Well, the
so,
staff has something about that in the report. Then you say there were si-
Right.
3 other.
Just for comparative purposes, there are 3 streets that in the city that have a speed limit less, 3 residential streets in the city that have speed limit posted less than 25. There is Classen Drive, where it goes around Alice Harn Park, and this is over in the Heritage Hills area. And then we have 2 streets that are in the Oak development, neither of which are fully open to traffic yet, so we're not able to get study information for those. On the one street that is posted 20 miles an hour where we can collect data, which is on Classen Drive, we had done a study on that back in May of 2023, and we observed a 50th percentile speed of 17 and an 85th percentile speed of 23. And on that particular roadway, the highest observed speed that we caught was 31. And this is where it's been posted 20. It's been posted 20 for quite a few years.
And I would just like to add to that, my neighborhood has 15 mile per hour speed limits posted, and it really does, quite a few people drive that or slower. There's a lot of pedestrian activity in my neighborhood. However, on the streets that aren't narrow, the ones that are still straight shots, nobody's going 15 miles per hour on those. So it definitely matters what the streetscape is, and because there is a big curve, I would imagine that people are naturally going more slowly, and it sounds like our radar is saying that exact thing, that they're going slower. I would imagine that you all have also talked about the fact that there are no sidewalks in your neighborhood, and if there are kids out and everybody's walking their dogs, that may be something that the HOA wants to work toward, is building out those sidewalks so you don't have to worry about everybody walking in the street.
Very good point. But it is out rural, and that's what we have, yeah.
As being a former president of my HOA for many years, I try to listen to my neighbors. And my other one is, there's a psychology to driving, and I wish Red was still on our panel because he's the one that taught me this many years ago. These houses are set so far back, there's just a lot of room between the streets and the houses, so it feels like there's a lot of room, which is going to make people go fast. Your intent is to lower people's speeding. That's not going to be accomplished by a speed limit. It's just not. There's many studies that'll prove that too. So those are the 2 things that concern me the most about this.
Yes, sir.
I don't object to the idea and the psychology of lowering the speed limit, but I'm curious if the neighborhood is aware of or has been informed of the ASAP program and measurements that you could apply there that would guarantee that people wouldn't go very fast, with speed tables, speed humps, things like that. That could be a better, more effective way of dealing with your concern than just posting a slower speed limit.
So I would just ask that you get with Mary, who runs that program for us, for the city, to talk about that. Yes, sir.
I would ask that no matter how we vote on this, that we get some enforcement in the neighborhood. It seems like that no matter what we post and no matter what people drive, if we have some enforcement to back it up, that's usually the best way to get people to slow down. So I would ask that no matter how the vote turns out, that we do get some officers out and maybe get some tickets written.
Absolutely.
One more thing.
Sure.
Please come on.
You know, we have spoken about this numerous times in our HOA meetings and stuff, and people have complained about it. We feel that, no one's going to adhere to a speed limit. They're not. They're going to do what they feel are comfortable with. But when we have said something to people, they go, well, the speed limit's 25. Or they go, how fast do you think I'm doing, And no one knows. We're just trying to put a speed limit 15 or 20. Typically, a vehicle, in first gear, when you go down the street, such as ours, it runs about 18 miles an hour is where it idles at going through the neighborhood. So now you're not going to get everybody to drive 15 miles an hour. We know that. We're just trying to get people to slow down. But if you got a speed limit of 25 or something that's not posted, they're going to do whatever they think. So that's it. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. Okay. Yes, sir.
Sir, what I would recommend you do is you live in the Santa Fe division, so what I would do is recommend you contacted either the captain or the major of that division, and then you can ask for an officer to work that special assignment in that area. So like what time are the speeders usually going fast? Is there a certain window that you're aware of?
It varies.
Yep. Thank you.
Okay.
I'm sorry, it varies.
So-
I don't know what they are.
Okay.
It's depends on when UPS comes, FedEx comes, the pizza delivery guy comes, and rush hour people coming home.
I'll notify that division to put an extra patrol out there to actually do that, but you can actually request something to say, can you put one out there for a week, and then they'll actually document all the times that they were out there for you, and then let you know that they put enforcement out there for you on that, okay?
Yeah, that's a good recommendation as far as the peak times for them to be there, because we have seen officers out there before monitoring the speed, or I have, but there's no traffic during that time.
Sure.
You know. So.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, very good. All right, any other talk on item 5E? Okay, we have a motion to approve from Commissioner Hale, seconded by Commissioner Littlefield. Can we have your votes, please? Item has passed, 6 in favor, 1 opposed. Okay. We go on item 5F. Staff, do you have an input on 5F?
Okay, the applicant for this case has asked for it to be continued to the April 21st meeting.
Okay, do we have a motion concerning item 5F?
I can move that we continue it.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner George to move item 5F to the April 21st meeting, seconded by Commissioner Cornett. Any discussion? Okay, we're ready to vote. Okay, item has been moved to April 21st. We go on now to 5G. Rory Bracey, Chief of Police. The item is up on the screen. Major, if I could have your name and address, and you have 5 minutes.
Dan Stewart, I'm at 219 East Main Street in Bricktown. So this is part of the strategy that we have to make Bricktown safer. So we've been after this, trying to pass this ordinance for a couple of years now. What we're seeing at night when the clubs let out, we're seeing crowds congregating around the food trucks, and it's a concern. So what we feel is the more people congregate, the more trouble there is. So our goal at the end of the night when the clubs let out is to disperse people. Ideally, they go get their ride shares, right? Go have their designated drivers drive them home. But what we're finding is they're hanging out by the food trucks. So our goal is to limit the food trucks after 11 p.m. so they're not available to them to congregate just within the Bricktown area. That's the goal of this ordinance.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Anybody else wanted to speak on item 5G? All right, staff, you have input?
No, we have no further input on this particular item. The one thing that I can tell you about it is that it just applies to the Bricktown area, and there is a defined map showing the limits for which it applies. And I believe in Chief Bassey's memo, he indicates that the Bricktown Board of Directors supported the proposed ordinance.
Yeah, the Bricktown Board of Directors has been involved in this for the last 3 years, so they're very, very much familiar that it's coming if it's passed.
Okay. Do we have any motion concerning item 5G?
I'd like to move we pass it.
We have a motion to approve by Commissioner Cornett. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Carnes. Any discussion? The only question I have, sir, is what about the food trucks? I'm sure they're not going to like it.
No, probably not.
Is there a lot of food trucks out after 11
Probably
right now?
3 to 5 on any given weekend night.
3 to 5. Yeah.
Yeah, I work in Bricktown Division 2, so I can probably give a little bit of insight on this. Majority of the food trucks are going to be right around the 200 block of East Sheridan, and that's usually when the large crowds of letting out at the clubs around 1 o'clock, 1:30ish.
And we see an influx of hundreds of people come. So when we're trying to disperse those with those large crowds from fights, et cetera, starting to happen, a lot of them are saying, well, I'm here at the food truck. And so, there may be 10 of the 75 are actually there trying to get food, but everyone is using that as an excuse to kind of congregate and stay in that vicinity, making it very hard for the officers to kind of disperse everything. And then when you get those crowds coming out that have been taking alcohol, et cetera, that's where the fights, the stabbings, the shootings occur. So this would really help making that curfew for them to not be able to be there at that time, especially right there where the clubs are letting out. It will allow the officer to disperse the crowds and then go. With the food truck opening, they can actually go over there now too until 2 o'clock. That would be good. Or if these food trucks were outside, away from the clubs, that would definitely benefit the violence, in our opinion, is occurring in Bricktown.
Right. So truck yard is, I think, what you're referring to, correct? And it's open until 2. And yeah, it's just on the other side of Bricktown, but it would, hopefully some people would disseminate along the way.
Absolutely.
And they're not getting a bigger problem over there.
Sure.
So is that open now? Okay. And are there trucks there also?
Yeah, I think there's 4 at any given night. There's 4 inside, all on private property.
All in that
yard.
truck?
And it's open until 2 a.m.
That's open till 2?
Yes, yes, sir.
So from 11 to 2, there's still a food truck option away from the bars?
Right.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much, sir. All right, any other talk on item 5G?
Are the trucks allowed to stay till 4 a.m. right now? I mean, they don't have to close at 2 like the bars do they?
Right. Yeah, the trucks, there are no hours. The ordinance would remove them from Bricktown from 11 to 5.
Say that again, I'm sorry?
11 to 5 would remove them. It would say they'd have to be out of Bricktown from 11 p.m. to 5 a.m.
Oh, okay. Why 11 and not like, say, 12:30 or something like that? I mean, because the bars don't close till 2. Most of the crowd's coming out at what, 1:30 or 1?
Yeah.
And so if the trucks have to be off the street, say at 1:30, when the bars close, then they're not there. They have to be gone by 1:30. It seems like you're cutting off possibly 2 hours of their livelihood.
Right. Well, what we see is that the crowds gradually increase.
Right.
Probably about 11:30, 11:15 is when we start focusing our efforts, our law enforcement efforts towards the clubs. And so we had some discussion about that, and the thought behind it was we want them out and gone. And you make it midnight now. They got a couple people they're serving at midnight. Those type of things. And so,
what happens if they're still there? Would it be a ticket? I mean, will it be like a $250 fine or something?
We're always going to go towards voluntary compliance.
Right.
We always want them. We give them every opportunity to leave. But yeah, it would be a citation, and then the ordinance would give us the right to impound if it got to that.
Gotcha. No, well, okay. It just seems like 11's awfully early to be cutting that out in my mind. But and if you did go later, say 1 even, they have to be gone by 1, which means if people are in line waiting, sorry, the owner of that truck would seem to be okay, they're going to give me a ticket if I'm not out of here by 1. I've got to go. Sorry,
Yeah, I think what I would not want is the officers that we have out there assigned to watch the clubs having to police the food trucks at that same time.
But, they're going to, you mean because of the...
I'd rather have them do that at 11,
and
when they can police it at 11, and then, if they have to take action on it, it's not taking them away from, because what we do is we post people up at the doors, and Captain Ackerman could speak to this. He actually works it on weekends, but we post officers up at the doors with the supervisor, so each club, so at any given time, there's 7 to 10 clubs open.
I understand.
Within Bricktown.
I get it, but I would assume it would just be a pretty short policing for the trucks. If there's only 5 to 7 trucks, once they know it, in other words, first 2 weeks, you'd have to have extra help out there probably to make sure the trucks are out. But it wouldn't seem like it wouldn't be a continually, once they know it, that they're going to get a ticket, a big expensive ticket.
You would think that. I mean, we tend to operate on a worst case scenario,
Yeah.
or the new truck driver that's coming in, and then we have to deal with them. We just want to eliminate any of that.
I understand.
If I could add, I would think that, when I've seen these trucks that they set up and then the takedown time, sometimes it's an hour to 2 hours to put up and take down their trucks. And so I think the 11 o'clock would give them to be completely out of the premises at 1 when the clubs start letting out. So that way they're not even in that vicinity. I know with these, and I can speak to this, right there on Vince Gill Drive, there's about 3 food trucks attached to their personal vehicles. You can't even see around the corner. So when pedestrians are trying to walk, I mean, when the clubs are starting to let out, there's going to be someone that gets hit.
Right.
But even when I try to pull out, I have to pull out into the middle of the lane before I can even see if a car is coming or not. So in order to have it at 11, these things will be completely gone by 1 o'clock. So when the crowds start letting out, then they're not even in that area.
So that is in this, that they don't have to be gone till 1?
No,
They have to
that's
stop.
the goal. The goal is to shut them down at 11 and be gone as quick as possible. But there is going to be, like you said, some grace if they're having to try to shut their trucks down and repack up everything and
So
redo
they just
everything.
can't sell past 11?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
They have to stop selling at 11?
Right, and, you know, we want them out of Bricktown at 11, but our officers are going to give them some discretion. As long as there's not, you know, a crowd's not congregating and they're working, trying to get out, we're going to work with them.
I got you.
But,
Okay.
but the ordinance is they have to be gone by 11.
Yeah,
Even
but-
though there may be some latitude, but the actual
yeah.
letter of the law is they've got to be gone.
Yeah, we would have some discretion there, but yeah, that is the way it reads.
Gotcha.
You mentioned the Bricktown Business Association or whatever it was called. Should I assume that these food truck owners aren't a part of that association though either?
I'm sure they have the right to be, I mean, if they're within Bricktown, but no, we
That
don't
answers my
have any
question.
representation, yeah.
Thank you. So there's some incentive, never mind. I'll be quiet.
Okay.
And my last question is, why are we voting on this? I mean, it seems, seems like this is a city council issue.
Right, well, and staff.
Okay, this particular item amends a section of Chapter 32, which is under motor vehicles and traffic, and what the police department has submitted this for is for the commission to review the draft ordinance and then make a referral that will go on to the city council. It'll be the police department that takes the item with the commission's referral
Gotcha.
on before the city council.
Okay.
Okay. Any other talk on item 5G? Okay, motion to approve by Commissioner Cornett, seconded by Commissioner Carnes. Vote, please.
Yay.
Okay, item has passed, 6 in favor, 1 opposed. All right, thank you, Major. We go on now to item 6, comments from citizens. Anybody want to talk? Okay. Item 7, reports from and other items from traffic commissioners. Commissioner Varnell.
None for me, but thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Littlefield.
Some of you are going to be upset with me.
You have nothing to say?
No, I have something to say. I had the fortunate experience of being in Tulsa a couple of weeks ago on a Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday on Cherry Street. I was in an Airbnb there with my family, and I participated there at a couple of different hours of the day, and the reverse angle parking on Cherry Street was 100% packed and 100% compliant. And what my comment is I'd like to know what it is that Tulsa is doing differently with reverse angle parking than the city of Oklahoma City, or is it a district thing, or is it whatever it is. But my interest is especially with the Vision Zero work and, you know, all this new information and new programs that have come forth since we approved that on the 39th Street District. The purpose of that is to make a safer environment. And what we've got there is pretty much what we've always had. I feel steadfast that we did the right thing keeping it intact, but I think it's time to start to figure out how to get it compliant so that we can make it what it's supposed to be, a safer environment. So I guess my initial question, you know, Mr. Henry, or whoever could be involved in finding out, you know, what's Tulsa's policy on reverse angle parking? What's different that's making it work there? I'd really appreciate if we could come back with that in a month or so.
Okay.
Hi, Justin Henry, Planning Department. We'd be happy to look into that. Tulsa does several things that I'm aware of that probably help. For one, they have a lot of reverse single parking all over their downtown. So just that awareness of it probably helps. They also typically put it on one-way streets, which also helps with compliance a little bit too. But we have colleagues there we'd be happy to talk to, find out a little bit more. So thanks.
And I just, to add on to that, and I'll not speak when it's my turn, I'll only speak when it's Rob's turn. I went by on, it was like a Tuesday afternoon, and everybody was compliant, 100%. It was great. There were 8 or 9 cars, but they were all correct. And then I went by yesterday around noon, so I assume that it's leftover from Saturday night. People still had parked there. And I think there were 3 out of probably 20 cars that were parked correctly, and the rest were all pulled face in. So I wonder if it's more the compliance in that area on the weekends versus not during the weekends, whenever it's, that could just be the time of the week, the time of the day, the activities in the neighborhood that's really driving compliance versus non-compliance.
Is the Northeast 4th reverse angle parking happening yet?
Yes, the developer's plan is to do reverse angle parking. It's pretty much installed now on the north side of the street. Questions remain a little bit about what the south side of the street's going to look like as a streetscape's coming up. But yeah, one developer in particular is doing a lot of reverse angle parking around town, and so we're starting to see a little bit more come in. Yeah.
So is it operational right now?
Yes.
Okay, how's it looking?
Mhm.
How are people complying?
I haven't observed recently, so I need to check that out. Yeah.
Yeah, and I might want to add one thing. On Northeast 4th Street, the designer adhered to the Tulsa standard for reverse angle parking. The parking stalls used on Northwest 39th Street are 9 feet wide. The Tulsa standard calls for the parking spaces to be 11 feet wide. So they might get better compliance because it might be easier to back into a wider space than it is a narrower one.
So if 39th Street were reconfigured to 11 feet wide, we would lose some, what do you think we'd lose in spaces?
1 every 5. About 1 every 5. But I think the 39th Street thing is because it's a two-way street with no blockage in between. That's the key. If it's a one-way street or there's something in the middle of the road, people will back in. If they think they can look at it and say, well, geez, I can just pull right in and cross the yellow, then it's easy. So that would be my thing. And that was our whole talk was, is there something we could do to block it, which we said no because of the parades. One of
the bigger complaints that I recall coming from participants on the 39th Street District was the impatience and aggravation of people behind one trying to do the parking. That they would get aggressive, they'd honk, they'd, I'm not going to use the word, but that wouldn't change, in my opinion, if it were a one-way street.
Well, but that would go for regular parallel parking.
Right, exactly.
I mean, you have to stop, put your blinker on. It's clear you're going to back up. People have to wait, and that honestly could take longer.
Very well put. I'm curious what we can discover and maybe tweak along the way here.
I noticed on the bike lanes over by Whole Foods that it's a protected lane. There are the flex posts along, but in between the flex posts are armadillos so that people don't cross over into. And so those are like the little curb, they look like armadillos. I know that they had tested armadillos over on Western and Main Street, and they decided for that purpose it wasn't working because it kept getting knocked over. Have they found a better armadillo solution that we could perhaps do the median on 39th Street so that people aren't trying, I mean, it's not going to hurt a car if you go over them, but are they viable now? Like, are we able to actually keep them secured to the ground?
Well, the thing I've always seen is it's the glue, and especially with our weather here and the temperature change, after.
But I'm wondering if they're
X-
screwing them in now, or if they have figured that out.
Yes, but I don't think any of the delineator posts or any of those devices are actually bolted into the road. I think they're just adhered using an epoxy material.
So they're just going to get knocked around if we do something like that. Okay.
All right, anything else, Commissioner Littlefield?
I think that's enough.
Well, I appreciate it. Go to Commissioner Carnes.
I don't have anything, thank you.
All right, Commissioner Hale?
Nothing, sir.
Commissioner George?
Oh, happy
Commissioner,
Thanks-
Commissioner Cornett?
Well, actually,
You're gonna
no,
lie.
I'm just kidding. No, I don't have anything. Thank you.
Okay, I do have two things. First of all, we have some guests here, it appears. When we're done, if you want to come on up and get some photos or something, please come on up and talk, okay? The second thing is, we're all in green, except for one, but he's in uniform. But we're in green because of staff. Could you explain that better?
Well, it's St. Patrick's Day today, and he is the patron saint of engineers, and being an engineer, it seemed like the appropriate thing to do is have as many people come out and celebrate engineering as was possible.
Very good.
And of course, there's always other activities that go along with it. I think even planning staff is celebrating engineering today.
Aren't they engineers too, a little bit? All right. Staff, do you have anything left? No? Staff?
No.
Okay. Counselor, nothing? Captain?
I have nothing.
All right, thank you very much. Anybody else have anything for the Traffic Commission? All right, we're adjourned.